Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Very serious.
Non-human intelligence exists. UAPs are real. They're here, and they're not human.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
What else you want to know?
$7 was...
Welcome, everyone, to Across the Pond, the podcast that dares to uncover the mysteries lurking beyond the veil of reality. From government cover-ups and secret experiments to hauntings, cryptids, and UFO encounters, we explore the unexplained and the conspiracies that keep them hidden. And for today, I have with me the ever so lovely Miss Ashlea Dillard. Ashley, thank you for joining me here. And for those who aren't familiar with you, your work, or your podcast, just yet, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your secret?
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited. And I love the theme of your podcast, so it's very fun, and I'm delighted. But thank you. I am located in the U.S., so I am a retired firefighter, paramedic, turned full-time mental health professional. I really pride myself on doing non-traditional work when it comes to the therapy side of things and kind of helping people get to the place where they remember the truth about who they really are. So I do a lot of progressive type modalities. Hypnotherapy is my main thing that I work with. So I do a lot of work within the subconscious and a lot of work outside of the non-typical topics that people like to talk about. So everything from past life regression to life between lives and childhood regression stuff, all of that kind of thing is my cup of tea. So there's so much power in clearing a lot of those old beliefs and those old mental impressions. So we're breaking the karmic cycle of things so that you can live an incredible, amazing life and not fall back into the same patterns and the same ways over and over again. So that's a little bit about the work that I do. I am married and I have 2 fur babies who are incredible too. And yeah, I just passionate about the work I do, passionate about living life, and just excited to be here.
Awesome. Great introduction. Thank you. Well, speaking of, past lives and all, like you mentioned it already, you have quite the extensive records already of, the different types of jobs and different types of things that you do. A firefighter first. How did you get to be a firefighter? I mean, especially, as a woman, like you don't see a lot of female firefighters. Although I would think that maybe the maternal instinct would make for a great firefighter. So how did you get to be a firefighter? It's sounds like an awesome job, but also very, very tough one from what I've heard. I know that here in the Netherlands, for example, traumas and PTSD and all of that among firefighters is so incredibly high, and just not spoken about. It's very much a thing that we don't talk about. So what's your experience in that?
Yeah, a lot of the people that I see and work with within my private practice are still either online as first responders or military or even veterans or retired firefighters or police officers. But yeah, it's it's very interesting when you look at, first off, the reason why we pick these jobs and why we come into these roles of coming from this place of really wanting to be a helper in some form or fashion, a fixer sometimes, and whether that's always the best thing or it's, coming out of a belief system that wants us to validate that. But we find ourselves in these roles and we don't often really understand, and you don't really get prepared for it. There's really no way to do it, prepare you for what the job will show you. And what one person in their life may see once, most people don't ever really see death very much, um, or extensive trauma or things like that, other than what you would see on TV or a movie, something like that. But when you're exposed to that level of things time and time again, not uncommon for you to run into death multiple times during your shift, is you would be basically like very unaware, uneducated, or self-actualized to realize that that has a profound impact on you. It impacts your brain, it impacts your nervous system, it impacts your body. And what I found in my journey was got into this spot where you almost normalized or desensitized all the trauma and all the death, and it just became a normal job. But what happens is, like, your brain, your conscious mind is convincing you, like, yeah, you're doing fine. Like, you process this. This call was not that big of a deal. But your subconscious mind, your feeling mind, is taking a memory, an impression of that, and so is your body. And so we wonder why we start to see things show up of, like, irritability, anger, insomnia, use of alcohol or other drugs, or promiscuous behaviors, dangerous behaviors, um, stress, overall depression, anxiety. All these things are symptoms of the bigger problem of not of seeing all this and not fully processing it. I do believe, like, there is a healthy way to do the job and the career, but you have to be very proactive rather than reactive. And so much of our jobs as first responders, we're trained to be reactive. After an emergency has happened, then we come in and we fix it, or we do what we need to. But moving forward, for people to have a healthy career and to actually retire and enjoy it, is like, you're going to have to be proactive to where you're in the pattern of just taking care of yourself and having conversations around, like, no, this isn't a normal kind of job. There is a healthy way to do it, and you definitely have to value yourself enough to do that. So that's kind of my take on that side of things, as well as, yeah, the stigma is getting better, but it's still quite bad in terms of reaching out for help, or the people being worried about the repercussions of doing that. Will I lose my job? Are they going to take away my weapon? Like, how are people going to view me? All this kind of, like, bullshit, really, that people are taking on or believing, that's keeping them from actually healing what they need to.
Would that also have to do with how society perceives the first responders? Like, they are the heroes, of course, they're first on the scene. I have seen a documentary, at least, about firefighters here in the Netherlands, that like 9 out of 10 times they are the first ones to perform CPR, for example. It's not the paramedics, it's the firefighters first, because 9 out of 10 times they are first on the scene. So would it be the pedestal that we have them up that causes a lot of those issues as well, causes them to not want to talk about it, because they have this this image to keep up. They have this, this face that they need to show to the outside. You're the hero. You have to be brave, and bravery means being there in whatever kind of situation, and especially for men, not showing weakness, which is a weird thing in of itself, because sometimes the bravest thing that you can do is to show weakness. It shows that you're human.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of all of that has to do with what belief system you're already bringing into the job. So if your view on, feeling your emotions or like being empathetic to the human experience, if you're coming in with this idea that I can't show emotion because emotion is weak, or I can't feel things because that makes me vulnerable, or I don't believe that I'm enough, so I need to overcompensate in what I'm doing. If you're already bringing in all that into the job is just going to further perpetuate that, because now you are in an environment where you're held to a high standard and you're constantly being evaluated on your skills and abilities and your capability to do the job. And so this constant underlying pressure that's on you all the time, that and so much is non-verbally and verbally stated, is like the public sees you as a hero and you are expected to give your life in an instant for anyone else, and you're expected to be able to do the job and to do it perfectly because people's lives are in your hands, literally. And if you think about the level of pressure that puts on people in general is insane. That's a lot of pressure all of the time. And so now you have that external pressure coming from the job and this already existing internal pressure. Well, I already believed that I wasn't enough, or I already believed that I make mistakes, or I'm not capable, or whatever. Then you're in this constant cycle of trying to do more and to be more and to constantly give. In the meantime, you're taking on all of the rest of that stress and trauma from the actual calls and the situations. So it can be a very interesting dynamic and a very interesting experience when you start to really break it down and understand. So many people pick this job too because it's projected as the family. It's the ultimate family unit, like your brothers and sisters, and like all this kind of element of the job is described to you. And it feels like that in a lot of ways too, because our shifts, we used to work 48 hours on and have 96 hours off. So you're working straight for 2 days, day and night, and then you go home if you don't work overtime. But you end up spending almost a third of your life with these people. And so you become very attached to this family unit or perception of the family unit that can cause some difficulty as well too. But it also is we look at it as almost like a drug in its own way. You become addicted to that. You become addicted to the excitement, the adrenaline of the job. Like the calls are crazy, and every single time you say, I swear I've seen it all, is like the universe will prove you different every single time. Bizarre stuff, funny stuff too, like stuff you would never want to see ever again. But it's just such an interesting dynamic, and the psychology behind the job is so fascinating as well. And yeah, this idea that you can't be weak is just like, how dare you be human and try to do this job is it's just crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, yeah, you're a hero, if you will, especially we all, of course, know the image of the brave firefighter, rescuing a child from a burning building and all of that. And would be interesting to find out how much of like how it's portrayed in the mainstream plays a role in that. And also, like you said, all the different calls that you get. We've had a guest on the show before, a former Alaskan police officer, I believe. He has wrote a book about all his, about some of his craziest adventures, and it really is like all layers of society that you encounter. From the druggie, overdosing to I don't know, like some fancy rich person who 9 out of 10 times is also overdosing. um, so like what are if you're able to speak on that, what are some of your most interesting calls that you've had that you can remember?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's so funny when you start to open the book of these calls and these questions of like thinking about what is the funniest thing that you've encountered or the craziest thing that you've encountered.
Or
Um,
just the one that stuck with you most?
yeah, I think mm, that's a good question. I think one that stuck with me the most would be pretty early on in my career. I think just because on the fact too that you don't like going through the schooling to do this job again is just like textbook and make believe and stuff. But when you're like actually out there and you're seeing things, it's a whole different side of it. So I was still in training, but I was with two other people. So this was specifically on the ambulance. So I'm brand new out of school, like wide-eyed, so excited, like ready to do the job. And we got called to a assisted living nursing home for this woman who just wanted to go to the hospital. And so we arrived there and we walked to the room, and this woman was grossly overweight. Like we're talking 400-ish pounds, like gross, so overweight. She didn't have the ability to even get out of bed on her own any longer. So she pretty much was bedridden. She was very spicy. Like she was feisty, had a lot of personality, but she wanted to go to the hospital because her boyfriend at the time was homeless and they didn't allow him into the facility because essentially he was trying to just live there with her. And so they would have to visit through the window if that was even possible. But she really wanted to see him in person, and he did too. So they kind of came up with this plan that we're going to call 911. You're going to say you want to go to the hospital. They're going to take you, and then we'll be there together at the hospital. So this when we ever have a bariatric size patient, it requires a whole special set of equipment, a special ambulance, like a different kind of stretcher or pram. And so we have to wait for that ambulance, that crew to get here. So they finally did, and we're all 6 of us are going to be moving this woman. And as soon as she, by the way, I forgot to mention that she doesn't have any clothes on because there's no clothes really that will fit. So she's totally naked. And you can imagine, like, if you're, that size and you don't move a lot, you tend to like start to smell in difficult ways. So we go to move her, and no joke, a spoon comes flying out from who knows where. Like, uh, don't know, it came from somewhere, but all of us looked at each other and we looked at her and we're like, how long has that been there? Just like you just lost this spoon that had gotten absorbed within you. And it was the craziest, like funny, but also like just interesting beginning to realizing like what the job actually entails, but like so bizarre, like the most bizarre situation. So that one's always stuck with me because I was very much in the beginning and just like I can't even believe what I'm seeing right now, and this you couldn't have made up this scenario in the first place. Um, so yeah, that was a pretty crazy one. And the other one I think one of my funnest ones is we had ran a guy who was having dinner with his family outside. It was during the summertime, and he had basically went into cardiac arrest, and his heart stopped. We got called, and it's a pretty big like send out when a cardiac arrest comes in. We send quite a few people because there's a lot of stuff to do. My buddy of mine was running the call, so as the other paramedic, I got to actually do really cool shit instead of having to run it. So I got put on the airway and started getting ready to intubate this guy, to put a tube down his throat. And I go to put it in there, and I'm like, he has something in his airway, like something is lodged in his airway. And so we have these cool forceps essentially that we can take. And I could see something, like there was a green bean and then like a pea. And then I'm like, there's still something else in there. And so I looked in there, and it was a giant piece of steak. And so we took the forceps, pulled this giant piece of steak out of this guy's airway, and we ended up getting pulses back. And as far as I knew, he lived in general. But that was pretty cool to get to pull, a piece of steak out of someone's airway and then help them to actually live on the other side. So those are just a couple of the funny good ones that I could think of off the top of my head. So
Wow. Yeah, that's especially the large lady, shall we say? That's quite the baptism by fire, as one of your first cases. I can imagine that. It sets the tone. Definitely sets the tone. And like literally inhaling your food. I mean, I've been accused of like eating too fast, and I'll jokingly say like, yeah, I just basically inhaled it, but to actually do it, and a piece of steak too. Like, how fast was this guy eating? Like, how hungry was he? It's
right. Yeah.
It's quite an accomplishment, actually, come to think of it.
It is. Yeah, I don't know the context of what was going on, if there was stressful fart or like family arguing going on, or I don't know, but I was like, man, this is an important point of the need to chew your food.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine like those kind of situations, they make the job fun, but then yeah, there's always a flip side, of course. But you brought up two very indeed interesting examples. I don't think I'll ever get the image of like a 400-pound woman and then a flying spoon. I'll never get that out of my head again.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks. Jeez. And from firefighting, you went into mental health like right away, or is there like an in-between period?
Yeah, I left the job just short of 10 years. So I was just short of 10, which is usually non-typical as well. Most people will retire from it, which is like 20 to 30 years to get your full pension of it. But I was reaching a point in my own life where I needed to advocate for myself and make some decisions that were going to help me in the long run, and realizing that I was incredibly burned out. I was not taking care of my mental, spiritual, like physical health. My body was starting to experience some pretty like profound, I call it messages or yelling at me of things. So before the peak of all that had started to happen, I was inspired by a mentor to come up with some kind of backup plan if I didn't want to do the job, or if you got hurt and you weren't able to do the job tomorrow. And he's like, you need to go into mental health. Like, you have a very profound story. You have a gift for helping people. Like, you need to go into it. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I did end up listening and go back to school while I was still online, to finish out the formal schooling piece of things. And what ended up happening is, when I moved into my internship and practicum, I started to get really super busy really fast. And I was trying to do both jobs at the same time, which would have further led to more burnout and more just not enjoying what I was doing. So I made the decision to leave the role of being a firefighter and then move into mental health full time. So, like you mentioned before, I work a lot with first responders, military, and spouses. But I see I see everybody. But I think those, we're a different breed of people, and the trust that we have, the commonality that we have, um, as well as like, I just don't do things in the traditional manner when it comes to therapy or things. And so I found it to be like really effective and helpful, and really stepped into this new role or dharma, call it, my mission of being a different kind of helper and on the mission to help end the suffering, especially for a group of people who put themselves last or minimize what they're going through or minimize themselves and realize like, no, this will all come to a breaking point at some point, and eventually you will get sick enough of your suffering. But yeah, I just show up, try to be authentic in the work that I do, and I call it like the frou-frou type of therapist. Like if you're coming to see me, like we're here to do the work, and no stone unturned. Like we're here to clean house because I want people to actually feel better. So I don't do just like symptom management. Um, that's why we dive into a lot of the deeper stuff that's really causing the issue under the surface. So
Yeah. And I can imagine, having been a first responder for 10 years, close to 10 years, it's a lot easier to relate to them. Like you know what they went through, you know what they are going through. And yeah, I mean, I'm very happy that like the kind of therapy that you provide, like really going into the depths of it, it seems to be, well, more common, or become more common than it was, let's say 10, 15 years ago. I've had, similar therapy myself. I've definitely dealt with, issues in the past. And yeah, it was, for me also like really going through the layers of, the emotions and the feelings behind it, like there was always another layer deeper. And yeah, like it was in those, well, let's say 2, maybe 3 years of therapy that, helped me more than any other, psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist before, because they were, yeah, like it indeed like focused a lot on, the outcome and preventing the outcome. So yeah, symptom, what is it, management, instead of, like, where is it coming from? It's not where's it coming from. It's like, how do we prevent it from happening again? It's like, it's, not helping, because if I don't know where it's coming from, how the hell am I supposed to know how to prevent it? It can give me all the techniques and all the kind of things that I'm supposed to do and supposed to tell myself, but once I cross the line, I cross the line. So yeah, I'm very happy for, well, everyone really, that's becoming more common, because that's the stuff that actually helps, instead of as you like call it on your website as well, just talk therapy. You just lay down on the sofa and tell me what's wrong. It's like, yeah, well, anyone can do that, really.
mhm.
And like, is it really helping if I'm just sitting there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and just telling about what's going on in my life, and you're just sitting there taking notes, and it's like, okay, and then what happens? It's like, oh Christ, come on. Like,
And how does it make you feel now?
oh, I
Yes.
I literally have had those questions. I remember one question in specific. I was 16. I had a bit of a, I had a troubled teenage years. I was a troubled teenager. That's why I'm podcasting. Because this is therapy for men. I do have to say, I have learned a lot through podcasting, and, hearing other one's experiences. So it is valid. Also, kind of as therapy, but like I do believe I was 16 years old, and in hindsight, he meant well. I mean, I'm gonna assume he meant well, but the question of, did anything happen, like last week that you can be proud of? And I was like, what kind of question is that? Did I do anything, or did I react to something in a way that I can be proud of myself? It's like, I'm 16 years old, man. Come on.
Yeah. I always like to look at it like they are doing the best they can. And I mean, really, sometimes that's what people need in that season of life or that moment where they are, is they just need somebody to say those things to. And that's good enough for them at the moment, because you can't, what I've learned in this work too, is that you cannot push people into something that they're not willing to go into. And there's a lot of people that are afraid to tap into the layers. And it's something I talk about as well, as like the secondary gains that you get out of having your problem. Is like, sometimes those are so strong for people that they're not even willing to let that go, because this is what I actually get out of having my depression. Like, I don't have to get out of bed, or I don't have to shower, or I don't have to care about myself. Or what do I get out of being my anger? Is it I just get to act like an asshole all the time, or drive with road
Yeah.
rage, like, and so that a lot of times what I've learned, through trial by fire, is like, as much as I want people to come out the other side, as I cannot be attached to an outcome for others, and realizing that when they're ready, then they'll come, but you have to have a willingness to really look at things. And like I use the phrase a lot, you have to be sick of your suffering in order for anything to really change. And so sometimes I think some of those like regular talk therapists, if that's what we're calling them, is I mean, if it's where people are, that's sometimes the only place people are willing to go. They're not willing to go deeper. Not to say like they would get so much benefit out of if they did, but it's just the reality of where sometimes people find themselves.
I mean, I get it. First step is, admitting that you have a problem and being able to talk about it. Because, as you rightfully mentioned, some people, their, their problem, their trauma has become their identity. So yeah, to resolve those issues, they would feel like they are, well, dissolving themselves, really. They don't know any better. As you said, like, it's become their life, it's become what they know. So to have to let go of that is really scary, or can be
Mhm.
quite scary.
Well, I even think taking it a step further is realizing that there's nothing wrong with you in the first place. It's this whole belief that you've been holding on to, that there's something wrong with me. I need to fix something. And it's like, no, like that was never the truth. Like the truth was you started to believe all these other lies and illusions about yourself that were never true. So it's all accepting like there isn't anything actually wrong with me. Therefore, like I don't have this constant mentality that I gotta fix all this stuff, or I need to do all of these things. It's like, no, you just need to remember what the truth is
Yeah.
and stop buying into all the bull crap that you have been. So this is a really like profound level of work to do.
And work, it absolutely is. Yeah, it's tiring, but if you indeed do manage to come out the other side a better man, better person, then it is all worth it. um you do very, well, diverse kind of therapy. I've seen hypnotherapy, and even, what is it, kind of guided with uh ketamine, or psychedelic assisted therapy with ketamine. you're gonna have to explain that one because for as far as I know, I mean, I work in security, so and I do work festivals every now and then, and as Dutchies, we like our EDM, and
Yes,
we like
yes,
our EDM with our substances.
yes,
So whenever I see ketamine, I have to take it in,
yeah.
because you know you're not supposed to have it, but you're like incorporating it in your therapy, medicinal. How does that work?
Yeah, it was an interesting transition for me because I used it on the ambulance for a period of time. We used it a lot in the therapeutic setting there for like excited delirium, or if somebody was on meth and like totally like whacked out. We used it sometimes as a pain management resource too. So having left that and moving into the therapeutic side was bizarre to me. I was like, how is this even a thing? Like, all I know is about like, like sedating people or sending them into the K-hole, as we called it, from that side of things on the ambulance. But I had a really unique opportunity to work with ketamine in my internship and practicum. And I think because of my medic brain, had a very interesting fascination with like, how does this actually work? And I appreciate the science behind it because it's showing like how because not just with ketamine but a lot of other psychedelics too, they're having profound effects on people's um neurobiology. So we're talking about like rewriting new networks, working with neuroplasticity, bringing areas of the brain back online that have been shut off because of stress or trauma or things like that. And so these substances are having a great impact in that side of things. So in my work with the ketamine, we use it after I do a lot of preparation with people first, because when you're going into unknown uncharted territory, like you need to have some resourcing within yourself and trust between me and whoever I'm working with, that like no matter what, we're getting through the other side. But when you're using psychedelics and you're going into that spaces, you're really like buying the ticket, but you're getting on the ride that you have no idea kind of where you're going. And so just helping people prepare for that ahead of time. The ketamine gives people that space or distance from things to look at stuff in more of a third party type perspective. So it's helpful a lot with like highly emotionalized situations, or trying if you have trouble kind of pulling yourself out of situations, or like I just can't like get past this kind of stuff. It can be a helpful tool to use, and I always look at it as a tool because no one thing is going to get you exactly where you need to go. So that's why if you have a problem on your car, like you're not just going to approach it with a hammer and assume like this hammer is going to solve all my problems. So you have to be willing to try and use different tools for working on whatever issue that you are. So that's where ketamine kind of comes in. I've had really good success for it, and really good success of just helping people to process and dump out the bucket, essentially, of a lot of stuff that they've been holding on to. But it's incredibly safe. I mean, of course, with anything, there's always risks associated with stuff, but this is one of the things that's pretty actually safe. It's done in a very controlled, safe environment. You have the guidance there, and my take to it, of course, like I follow my protocol and regimen. As it becomes more popular, I don't know how it is over there, but here there are like a lot more clinics and stuff popping up, which is kind of terrifying because they'll just sit somebody in a room and give them the ketamine and then, okay, I'll be back in an hour to check on you. And you're talking about putting people into incredibly vulnerable, open places, and they need the support and the help there with them the whole time. It's just, I take it really, really super seriously when I do the work with it. So that's my take. If anybody's ever listening and interested in it, is find somebody who knows what they're doing and that you vet them out, because you don't want to come out the other side of it feeling more lost or ungrounded than you did when you went into it. So just make sure you do your homework, do your research to find somebody who is trained, who knows what they're doing, and is kind of doing their best to give you the best experience.
Yeah, it seems that psychedelics or other, psychotropic, substances, they are becoming, more, I don't want to say more popular, more widely used, more widely accepted as, something that helps either break the walls down that you have put up and just can't seem to break in, regular therapy or any kind of other, um, therapeutic sessions. Like on my own show, Graham Pagan's podcast, I talk a lot about, spirituality and the occult and esoteric and all of that. And it's really in that scene where ayahuasca ceremonies, for example, are becoming, a real big thing, and a lot of people having these incredible breakthroughs after a very intense session, gaining a lot of mental clarity, spiritual clarity, and cleansing the body as well. I've heard some stories that it's good that they have a big multiple gallon buckets there, because a lot of stuff is coming out, and not just mentally.
Yes.
But I'm always, that's the skeptic in me. I've learned over the years always stay skeptical. But I feel that it also has a tendency to, or people have a tendency to view it as a shortcut, especially in the more spiritual, enlightened circles. Something like DMT or ayahuasca or whatever is seen as a shortcut to enlightenment, which makes it quite dangerous. So the fact that there are, as you said, that there are clinics popping up everywhere, and that those kind of retreats are popping up everywhere, it kind of has me worried. But on the other hand, our our ancestors or whoever, it's always been a thing. We've always used some sort of a substance to help us go deeper or go higher, or whatever it is. But I hadn't heard of ketamine really being used with that. It does seem to gain popularity though.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like I said, I can only speak to how it is over here, particularly how it is in Colorado. But yeah, it's become one of the proven methods, are approved, I guess, through the FDA for its use in, persistent anxiety, depression, PTSD, suicidality, that kind of stuff. And I think slowly, like here in Colorado, they just decriminalized psilocybin. Actually back in 2023, psilocybin and DMT and mescaline. So I think they're kind of starting to catch up and realize there is a lot of merit to this. And yeah, it's just, that gets into the whole rabbit hole, right? Of the government overstepping, where you have sacred medicines, and I have a real issue with them turning psilocybin into a synthetic material just so they can control the exact amount that you're going to get off of it. It's well, that's not even, that's not even what it was created to be. Is so I don't know. I struggle with that aspect, where I'm glad that the resources are opening up, but yeah, it's just people using it in the right way, the support in the right way, and also honoring the sacredness of the medicine. Especially when it comes to ayahuasca, psilocybin, ibogaine, those ones that are truly, and those come from nature. So
Yeah.
honoring the sacredness of those medicines and the tradition behind those medicines, um, I hope we don't lose that piece of it.
I mean, I don't think I don't think we will. I think, the spiritual side of it, there will always be, a group who understands it. There will always be, a certain tribe perhaps who will use it for medicinal or spiritual purposes. Luckily I've, spoken to plenty of people who have done it for those purposes. That's kind of one of the perks of being in multiple circles at the same time.
Hmm.
I get to see and hear a lot of different things, a lot of different opinions about it. Um, so just me being very curious and like never really done anything. Well, not anything psychedelic. I have used substances in the past. Um, I mean, in the Netherlands, one of our favorite things, especially with EDM, is like MDMA or ecstasy. I do still see a lot of people on MDMA or ecstasy at those kind of parties. Um, but that's it's different. That's recreational. Although they do say that it has this mind opening effect. How would that work in a therapeutic session? Like, is that part of the hypnotherapy that you do as well, or is it like just hypnotherapy and like no substances? Because that would be too much.
I've found that through actually, well, both. So the psychedelics will open your mind up. If I mean, if you're willing to. That's the other part of it is like, I mean, ayahuasca is like the grandmother of the medicine. So from I haven't done ayahuasca personally, but from what I know and heard of it is she will get everything she needs from you regardless if you're willing to give it or not. So some of the other though psychedelics is like you have to have a willingness to allow yourself to go there too, and your mind is incredibly powerful. So if you're trying to overpower or you have such a tight grip on control, like you're still going to have a very difficult time in using psychedelics in that way. And so that's kind of where the power of hypnosis comes in. And what I like to use with hypnosis is because it's so pinpointed and we know a little bit more specifically about what we're working with, but we're tapping into this incredible network between the mind and the body where we're actually able to see like, okay, why is it so stinking important for you to be in control? Like what is really going on with this? Because again, like the control is just a symptom of something coming up, but we're able to actually work with that on the subconscious level to where it's coming from and then communicate it to the body through the subconscious as well. So I can be, safe wherever I go, or I, am fully capable to do anything I need to do. That's what I love about hypnosis, and hypnosis also works on the neuroplasticity side of things. So we are rewiring and we're building new networks and new default ways of doing things because we're changing our thoughts around stuff as well. So you're no longer having this old narrative, this old dialogue running around your head of I feel powerless, I feel weak, therefore I need to be in control. Like that's all changing. We're shifting all of that. That's what I love about the hypnosis side, and it's an incredibly natural but altered state. So it's very, very similar to doing work with psychedelics, but you're not using a substance essentially. It's its own kind of psychedelic experience in a way. Um, and even I do a lot of work with breath work too. And breath work is like the super highway to a psychedelic experience that's just existing within your mind because I mean, we all carry, the DMT molecule within our bodies. It's something that our body makes. And so you can access a lot of those kind of profound experiences through other modalities like hypnosis or breath work, things like that. It, even through meditation, right? Is like you can access a lot of those very profound experiences without having any substance too. But it's really about clearing those blockages and looking at these things, and doing that work on a deep inner level.
Yeah, especially breath work is interesting. It was, I believe, last summer that I found out that, I mean, quite literally, just down the street, there's a couple who like provides these kind of, breath therapy sessions. I've done a group session with them, and I've done a one-on-one session, and yeah, it is interesting, the things that you know that you feel, and like no two sessions are the same either. I mean, at the beginning, like I felt the same kind of sensations in both sessions, because that's, I guess when you're like really coming into it. But then, I felt something else. I felt like very different, and especially the private session, I hadn't had breakfast yet, so it's been a while since I was like high without ever like really using something, like no breakfast, and then like a heavy, like breathing session. Man, that got me going. Like I walked out the door and I was like, whoa, okay.
Yes, it's
This has been a
intense.
while.
Yes, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. Um, and with the hypnotherapy, like you said, you also do like past life regressions and what is it, like bloodline traumas? What was it again?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we past life regression, natal regression, or prenatal regression. So like, whatever narratives or beliefs like your parents were carrying when you were conceived or you were born have an impact on you. So doing a lot of work within that as well too, to clear generational trauma, or I call them generational curses, is like things that you're carrying that were never your stories to carry anyways. Yeah, all of that really deep level of work done through hypnosis.
So generational traumas and the feeling, the need to break those generational traumas, or curses. Sometimes it can definitely be a curse. I I find that it's really something that, um well, our generation is doing. I'm gonna assume you're about the same age as me. Um have you seen that in your practice as well? That it's like our generation and the next generation who's really like come to that conscious decision to break those traumas, or at least to try their bst to not repeat them.
What's happening now, I think, is we've talked a little bit about the enlightenment, awakening side of things, but I really feel like this is what's happening within our generation and the younger whatever it is. I lost track of the names of them all, but yeah, it's this kind of awakening to realizing like, okay, I don't want to live this way anymore, or this is not the truth about who I am, or kind of about waking up mentality. And so I think what I'm seeing is a lot of people are coming into this of like, it's time to heal, like it's time to wake up, and that kind of inspiring through the collective now of like, okay, like the world is in plenty of pain and suffering, and we need to wake up. And all of this taking the initiative to do the healing and the transforming, like it's going to have an incredible impact on everyone. So I say that to people all the time when you're here doing the work with me, is it's not just about you in this moment. Like you are literally healing things from people who came before you who didn't have the opportunity to heal. And you're grossly impacting those coming after you. So whether you have kids or not, or grandkids, or it doesn't really matter, because the healing impacts everybody. It's like, this is not just about you. This is goes way beyond that. And that's what I really see is this, I don't know what you would call it, as like divine awakening of people finally like truly waking up and saying enough is enough. And we have to end the pain and suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen that. There have been a few, well, waves over the years of spiritual awakening. The latest one being COVID. You know, there's been so many massive changes and so many levels. You know, that like a lot of people. I've spoken to so many people on my own show as well. That, you know, when the topic come up of, you know, like, when did you start to see these things, or when did you start to realize these things? It's like, yeah, you know, like about 5 years, or 6 years. Jesus, 6 years.
I know, it's crazy.
What the hell? You know, like when COVID, like in the middle of COVID, like, you know, I lost my job. I kind of lost my purpose, lost the sense of, you know, who I was, what I was doing, and, you know, wanted to try something new. And like, here I am now. So yeah, those stories are always, you know, awesome to hear. And yeah, I'm you know, being a father of two young kids myself, I am curious as to where, you know, my kids' generation will take it, because they definitely grow up in a an interesting world. Let's say it's they're interesting times, to say the least, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do like the Rumi quote that you have on your website. The wound is where the light enters you. Seems very fitting, because, you know, also from my experience, it is let's say the most wounded people who are the most gracious, who seem to possess the most wisdom, really. And I've often said about myself that, you know, it's through everything that I've gone through all the traumas that I've lived through, that I, you know, managed to gain this knowledge, this understanding, this, well, wisdom. So I think it's a beautiful quote.
Thank you. I have a very keen liking to Rumi's stuff, and yeah, he has a lot of good things to say, so I listen when Rumi is speaking.
I never really got into it, actually. I never really got into Rumi. I hear so many good things about him. I'm more of a Carl Jung kind of guy. I like
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
I like his work on the
Yep.
archetypes and the collective consciousness.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely.
And falls very much in line with you know, with what you do as well, you know, the collective consciousness. And it's probably where a lot of these traumas you know, manifest or come from. Or
Yeah, and the shadow work that Jung speaks to a lot too.
Oh God,
and that's all
I
really like
I
cleaning the
hate
sand
doing
scars
shadow
and
work.
clearing the
Yeah,
blockages. That's all. It's all the same thing, really.
I hate doing shadow work. But it is so necessary to, you know, to clear that. Luckily my wife is she'll tell me like it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do believe that, like, that really helps as well. Like, you mentioned that you also treat you know, spouses, and I think just having someone by your side who you know, who supports you, who understands you, or is willing to learn to understand you, is so important on the road to recovery, the road to healing.
Yeah, it's a must. It's a must have on your journey, so you can support one another and just allow one another to grow and dismantle themselves and like grow again. So, yeah, absolutely.
Because that's really also the more of the police officer stereotype, overweight, alcoholic, and 2 ex-wives.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yep. That's the common one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this has been we're about at the hour, so any last words, any wisdom to share with the audience?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, or my taglines, I guess, if you want to call it that, is like when I talk about like being sick enough of your suffering, but not choosing the hell that you know over the heaven that you don't. And even though the work is difficult and the journey can be hard, is like it's worth the cost of admission. So don't wait. Do the work. Like, and I promise you it's worth it.
Well, thank you very much for that uplifting message. If the people want to know more about you, if they want to find out more about what you do, or have a session with you, perhaps, where might they find you?
Yeah, you can connect with me best places through my website. So that's www.ashlea, spelled ASHLEA, Dillard, DILLARD.com. So that's the best place to connect with me. It'll get you exactly where you need to go. And then you can also check out my podcast is Sit Around the Fire. And it's a mixture of kind of first responders, military, sharing stories, but also just speaking and sharing wisdom too. So you can get to that at sitaroundthefire.org, or also through my website too. So I'd love to connect with anybody, or anyone has any questions or anything. Totally happy to be there to support.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll make sure that those are in the description box down below and in the show notes. Of course, this has been a very enlightening conversation. It's been a lot of fun. We touched on some good stuff, I think. Definitely some teachings in there as well. A lot of stuff that we still have to learn, and your wise words, they're very good. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yes. Well, thank you for having me. And it's such an honor and pleasure to be here. So,
well, it is our pleasure too. I found your profile on Podcast Guest, I believe, and I read through it, and I was just like, I gotta talk to her. Like,
nice.
she must have, like stories to tell, wisdom to share. So always looking for interesting people, and yet again I found one. So
awesome. Good.
And of course, to our lovely audience, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, because what would this wisdom be if not for an audience to share it with? Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Leave something nice in the comments. We do read the comments, so be nice. Okay, warning you. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Are we on other platforms? I believe so. YouTube, of course, Across the Pond YT on YouTube. Or just simply go to our website, www.acrossthepondpodcast.co.uk. It's a UK-based podcast, UK website. They have to be special. I'm going to get shit from Andy from this, but hey, if you're listening to this on Spotify, please do give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out so much. It's a small effort, means a lot to us. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, say something nice, and do indeed be nice. Same with YouTube. We are watching, we are reading. And while you're at it, find the, what was your podcast name again?
Sit Around the Fire.
Sit Around the Fire. That's it. If you're, subscribed to us or not yet, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe to Sit Around the Fire. Find Ashlea, if she's telling these stories, just, as a guest. Imagine the guests that she has on. Imagine the stories that they have to share. So before I blabber on, I'm going to leave it at this. Thank you all so much. And we will see you all next time on an amazing show of Across the Pond podcast. Thank you all. Bye-bye.